Right, guys, welcome back. This is the Above Average FPL podcast. My name is Adam, and I'm not joined by Baker today. No, we have a very special guest with me this evening. It's only the guy that went and won the whole damn thing. This is Football is Life FPL, Jamie Piggott. How you feeling, mate?
Pretty wild. It's been a couple fun days, a wild run to the top, and it's been kind of Twitter blowing up and everybody reaching out. It's a lot of fun. Can't lie.
I can imagine it's just been absolute carnage. I see. It's so weird because even me putting together the overlay for today and just putting OR1 next to your name was just nuts. And I feel really bad for Baker actually because obviously he's on holiday and that, but he was like, you know what, just go ahead and do it. You need to do this, and it'd be really cool to speak to you and just sort of get those. And doing it now is we're getting a bit of raw emotion as well. Still, you've had a couple of days. We saw the videos of the emotions when it happened, but we're just sort of getting the first couple of days. The emotion's still there, right?
Yeah, no, it's still there. It's still sinking in the win. I mean, I was so far away from it, with a couple weeks left. I set myself up to try to capitalize on it, but it still wasn't something I thought was going to happen. So to be here, to be on the final day with a chance was pretty darn exciting, let alone to be in the lead. I kind of was nervous of trying to defend the lead. 1 point, it was, there was nothing in there. Anything could happen. So a lot of fun cheering on with everybody and seeing what happened. It was a hectic day watching those 10 games at the same time though. Like 10 screens, which game to watch, what's going on, hard to track. Oh, this just happened. Wait, what does that mean?
Gonna say, was it you that was tracking it? Were you trying to keep an eye on it, or was somebody else? I'd imagine everyone around you was basically on live FPL trying to track it for you and see how things were going.
Yeah, no, I was keeping an eye on it, but yeah, my brother would be like, "Oh, it's 8, it's 12." My dad's like, "Oh, it's it's back up here. It's closer. It's 5." Kane got an assist.
Oh man,
so it was and then we see a goal in the Arsenal game. It's like, "Oh, was that Saka?" I don't know.
Yeah, because there was all sorts of things that happened on the final day. Like if you think about, like Saka didn't take the penalty. Did you have Saka in their last day?
No, I was one of the only people around me that didn't. So when Martinelli took that penalty, I was like, that was lucky.
Imagine being handed a gift by an Arsenal player. That's incredible. The irony is brilliant. The irony is brilliant because for anybody that doesn't know, Jamie is fully come on you Spurs. So
Spurs.
Yeah, that's why we had to get him on. That's why we had to get you on, man. Brilliant. Cool. Well, we've got a bunch of questions to ask. But I'm just going to do a quick plug for the podcast. So for anybody listening for the first time, if you don't know where to find us, head over to Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts from. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/above average FPL. On all platforms, everything. Make sure you give a like, comment, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff. That's really appreciated. As always, as well, the podcast is supported by our friend Dan at CryptoBlockDan on Twitter. If you want to know anything about NFTs in the crypto space, get over to Twitter and give him a follow. So, into the questions. So, yes, it's just me, but Baker, he did put together something for you. And I know I've already sent it over to you and you've had a listen, but for the benefit of anybody listening and anybody watching, this is what he said.
Jamie, Baker here. Just want to drop a quick video to just congratulations, what an amazing achievement, and also just the way you won it, like such a brave way you've played this season. Had a little look at some of the season analysis, and I know you and Adam are going to get into it, but loved it. Also love it that you love the pod and you love Spurs. It's just all amazing stuff. But sorry I can't be there. I'm away on holiday and just tying it up, and also just trying to fit it in while I was away, just very, very difficult. So you're in good hands with Adam. I'm sure he'll take care of you. And just a note, you mentioned it, I don't think you realise how much it means to content creators like us, like Planet FPL, like The Wire, like Burning Questions. It makes it all worthwhile, mate. Like, it's a lot doing a pod every week, but it's all worth it when someone says, yeah, you helped. So huge thank you. and have a good chat, and see you soon. Come on, you Spurs.
Cool. So yeah, Baker is sunning himself out in Arizona at the moment, not far from you, I guess. But yeah, just to echo some of his sentiment. I mean, and I think a few content creators have said this as well. And it just actually means loads to know that and to think that in some way we provided some kind of help or advice, or we may have influenced the decision, and it just makes this whole thing worth it. We go on, carry on.
Then it's definitely, I'll jump in. I mean, it's definitely kudos to the community. I think there's a lot of smart, hardworking people out there who are compiling and looking at things in different ways. And, I took the approach of let's absorb as much content as possible, maybe not as much content as possible. Everybody kind of has limited time in the day, but everybody's so smart and working on good things that ignoring that and bringing in as much information to inform whatever decisions I made was super helpful. So yeah, big kudos and thanks to the community. Fun to watch for
Excellent.
sure.
Excellent. So I mean, yeah. So we talked about the day itself. So who were you watching? Who were you watching with anyway?
Yeah, I went into San Francisco with Black Wolf. Dan reached out and invited me to come. There was a FPL meets in my backyard, and so I at first I didn't want to go. I kind of wanted to hide behind my couch and watch it from the safety of the confines of my living room. But figured it would be fun. So got up, went with my wife and my 14-month-old son, dressed up in full Spurs gear, and met up with my brother, dad, and one of my best friends there at the bar. And it was actually a Leeds bar, so there was half of the room was all Leeds fans.
Oh God, wow!
So it was kind of a wild scene with all of those Leeds fans going so crazy at everything that was going on in their game and against in the Newcastle Burnley game. So a fun, hectic environment, but yeah, it was fun to be there with my family, friends, and some folks from Twitter to bring the community in as well.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, yeah, we all saw as well that Suvansh was at an FPL meet himself over in Mumbai. So he got to experience that. And look, second is unbelievable, and it was great to see the camaraderie there, as well as he obviously got crowned India's #1 manager as well. So fantastic effort to him. Anybody else in the top 10 as well, just unbelievable effort this year, yeah, for sure. I mean, in talking about like this year, so how long have you been playing FPL?
So the apps has 3 years of records, but I think the first year I missed the game week 1 deadline, so I gave up after a couple weeks. So I think my rank's like 4 million or something. I looked at it. So let's just erase that. I mean, really, last year was my first year, and I got invited to join a mini league by one of my good buddies. And I think before I was kind of, I was more used to fantasy football, American football, where it's mostly a draft and you draft teams. And I think I hadn't gotten much into FPL because I was like, everybody has the same team. Like you can all pick the same players. What's the fun in that? But actually getting into it, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of strategy, a lot of layers here. This is a lot of fun. Yeah. So last year was really my first year, and going just competing in my mini league. I didn't really care about overall rank. I didn't know enough about it or about kind of the overall strategy. Was really learning that kind of entire year. And then this year was the first year jumping into the beginning. I kind of, was planning my team around my chips and figuring things out and actually bringing more of the strategy to the game that I didn't know before. So last year was the first, but this year I was much, better at the game, I guess, from the start.
And so when did you start picking up? You say you were planning. I mean, the first year, I remember the first year I was trying to take it seriously. I'd be doing things like planning, but I wasn't really consuming much content. I was maybe flicking onto the Fantasy Football Scout website and seeing the fixture ticker and the Scout recommended players, but I wasn't really doing the level of stuff that I was doing even before we started the podcast, and even this season when I'm consuming so much content, it's crazy. And when did you really sort of start consuming content?
Yeah, and I think it's even at the beginning of the season, I was looking at some stuff, but you're right, it wasn't super all consuming. I was looking at some stuff on Twitter, random threads of, you know, what's going on, what people thought were good players here and there. And then I think it was kind of a couple weeks in to the season, I think I found more content creators and found the stuff more interesting, and started to just spend more time on my drive, commute, listening, throwing on a podcast here or there, which was always good for me. I didn't usually have time to sit down and watch a YouTube video from start to finish, but I'd throw it on and listen to the audio, listen to a podcast. And then especially, I think, closer towards when doubles started coming in, it was, I think, important to figure out, you know, how things were, what was the landscape, what different scenarios we're going to put certain games in certain places to try to plan around that. And because that stuff is so hard to predict. So kudos to Ben Krellen and James, Planet FPL James, because they're, you know, they do that stuff so well. And some of that stuff is helpful to really plan around who you're going to go for, who you're not, what risks you're going to take.
Yeah. I mean, did you find that, because it feels like you consumed more content as the season went on, and that kind of coincided with, you know, your rank getting higher and higher. I'm not saying direct correlation, but as you consume more content, you get a lot more noise. Did you find it more difficult then to sort of wean out the advice you didn't really agree with and things like that near the end of the season?
I don't think it was very difficult to just, I mean, I wasn't playing to get a 10K finish, or I was trying to beat my mini league. I got second last year, and the guy who got first, Derek, I started the season with the goal to just beat Derek. All I want to do is beat Derek. And I think that's probably the same for a lot of people who play this game. It's your mini league is the most important thing. But as I kept going, I think come the halfway point, I might've been 200 points up in my mini league on second place. So I kind of shifted the gears and focused more on, what can I do here? Because I could go for it if I wanted to or tried to. And so from a content perspective, I think since I was still kind of playing for fun, and I watched a lot of the games, I wasn't necessarily keying in on like, oh, everybody's telling me to do this, I need to like pick which one to do. It was more of like, oh, these are the pool of players that people like, now pick who I think based on statistics and upcoming fixtures, and for my team how it fits in with price structure and all that stuff, what works best for me. So it was kind of a just absorb it all and then take it and do with it what I wanted to. So I guess I didn't feel it was too difficult to sort through it all. It was just kind of more information to pick from.
And I guess that meant that you felt that, I mean, because you did it fantastically, and we'll talk through your we'll have a quick look at your sort of season progress now, and just see sort of how you've progressed through the season. So on the screen for anybody who's not watching on YouTube, so we've just got a graph showing Jamie's progression through the year, as well as when he played his chips. And so I mean, you tell everyone when you played your chips if you want, Jamie. But I mean, it's clear from here that there's a key sort of turning point in which everything kind of just took off, and that was, you have really good progression through the first part of the season, and you're looking, close to sort of 1K rank by midway, and then you find yourself with a little bit of a rise up into the top 100, and then back down to sort of the top 1K around 32, 33. And then suddenly just everything, you kind of just released the hounds on it almost and just gone, you know what, just go for the kill. And it's paid off.
Yeah, I think for the first half of the season, it was kind of build a good foundation and have a good solid team. I think I made good choices on my wild card in game week 8, which helped kind of set me up for good success, and kind of on either side of that, I did well because I picked Chilwell and James in 8. or I picked Chilwell in 6. And so the first game he started over Alonso, kind of a bit of a risk to jump on him when he hadn't played, and he scored. And so it kind of, that was a good foundation to kind of springboard the next kind of good chunk of the season. And then there's COVID postponements flying kind of left and right through that period, which everybody kind of struggled with, rightfully so. But I still was able to kind of keep ticking along and keep sliding up. I think around Boxing Day, I think Sterling helped me with I think it was like a sub 1,000 game week rank, either like 18, 19, which helped shoot me up quite a bit as well. And then right there, I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of in the realm of this is achievable given I still got all my chips. Let's see what we can do from here and try to go for it. And it was a little bit of a up and down from there forward, based on when other people were unloading chips, but I kind of held mine in reserve. I kept planning on using, free hit in 27. And then I got there and I kind of felt, you know what, my team's kind of set up maybe like 2 weeks before. I was like, I think I can manage this without, let's do it, and save that chip for later. Then the next time I was like, okay, maybe game week 30, I'll use a free hit. And I got there close to it. I'm like, I think I can manage this without, I think I've got better gains on the back end. So let's see if I can hold this. And that could be powerful if I have, a bunch of chips for the end of the season. Could make that part really fun. Sure enough, it did. So I got to my free hit in 33, and it was kind of terrible. It was a disaster. And I doubled my rank. And that really kind of destroyed my hopes. I was feeling pretty good going into that game week, and then that was just terrible. But I kind of, the next week I got to remake my whole team on my wild card, and push forward for, push all the chips in and see what can happen. And I got super lucky those last couple of weeks, and it all paid off, the risks I took, for sure.
Yeah, I mean that 33. Because I was looking at that 26 triple captain first, and that felt to me like it was, because you can see you're in the top 100 at this point.
Yeah.
And for you, there was no need to take any risk whatsoever at all. Plus, it was a high opportunity point to be in for somebody who owned Salah anyway, to take advantage of the probably two best fixtures on the board in the season. So for you at 100, well, you must have been about 60, 70, something like that rank at the time. And or no, you must have been just outside the top 100 looking at this, thinking.
Yeah, I think it was just outside 100. I think.
But yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I went away from that and I tried Trent, didn't work, obviously. But yeah, it was obviously the right decision for you. And that 33, it feels like that was probably one of the captaincy decisions that was very 50-50, because you captained Bruno in that week, and Ronaldo came out with 17 points. So I mean, I'm not gonna say it was a terrible thing for you, because clearly it ended up okay in the end.
Yeah. And looking back at it, I kind of think, well, if that free hit was a success and I was in, let's say I was still around 500, would I have played a different wild card? Would I have picked different players because I'm in a different position? I probably would have. I don't know exactly what moves I would have made differently, but the situation's changed and the game's a little bit different when you're at a different position and you're trying to go for a certain goal. So
Salah feels like the big one.
Yeah, me falling back to outside the top 1K, I think gave me this mentality of, if I want to do this, like, what's to me falling back to 5K to 10K? It wasn't anything important. What would it be if I could, go for it and push all the chips in and see what happens? That would be fun. And so for me, that decision was, let's risk it and let's see what happens. And we've got, what do I need to do to make that happen? Well, I've got to make some interesting decisions and go a little bit different on that wild card to see, target players that may have potential that other people aren't looking at, and go away from the main risks of Salah and Trent, and it worked out. It worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean I mean, again, you're not making, and you didn't make any decisions for any sort of bad players either. I mean, you were never going to be doing that. And if you look at that 34 wild card when you brought in Alonso, you went triple Chelsea because of the double, and you've got KDB in there. You've got some coverage of Liverpool with Mane, and you've got arguably post January the best defender in the game in Matip as well. So you've got pretty much everything covered. And you've obviously got Son in there. And then looking forward at 36, probably with 36 in mind, you've got Nketiah there for the double as well. So you're pretty well covered all over. I mean, you carried Dennis, but there we go. But yeah.
Hey, Dennis pushed me the 2 points from Dennis pushed me from 199 to 201. I got to the 200 club because of Dennis.
Amazing. Well, there we go. There we go. We can't knock him anymore at all. So yeah, I mean, look, mate, just it's just mad just thinking. It's just mad just thinking about it. I can't even fathom it, to be honest. And I guess we all sort of dream of being in a position where we can take those decisions. And you know, you'll find a lot of managers won't do that because they don't. It's almost like they're not sure whether they actually want to win FPL. And I feel like some people will say, well, you know, I want a top 10k finisher. I want a top 5k. I'm in the top 10k, so I'm just going to stay there. But you sort of approached it with the, but what if I win type attitude, which is just like, it's really refreshing. It's great to see. And, you know, a lot of managers, how can I put it? Not so many managers would take that approach. And there's quite a few around the community, I think, that actually wouldn't take that approach. But, you know, I think fair play to you, to be honest, fair play to you. And it's worked.
Thanks. And again, I think that's also fine. It's a game and you got to play with what you want to get out of the game. And in that case, that was the fun decision for me. And I think for somebody else, it could be different. And that's okay too.
Cool, man. Cool. So we'll just have a quick look at some of the players that have really helped you this year. And so we're taking the data from FPL Optimized. If you're watching season reviews on YouTube from all of the great channels that are out there, you're probably seeing this graphic on almost every single channel at the moment. So we'll just show it to you anyway. But you've had a quick look at this, and are there any surprises up there that you weren't really, or you didn't think that had such a big contribution to your score, or even players that had contributed negatively towards your rank?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Salah being my number one,
enemy,
losing
nemesis.
the most. Yeah, nemesis. Thank you for the word. Losing the most to Salah is kind of interesting because I had him for still most of the season. I missed, game week 9. I went away from him. And captain, I didn't go with Havertz. I went with Reece James, but I still lost points there. I lost points on my free hit when I went away from Salah, and he played Man U again. But beyond that, I felt like I still had Salah a lot, but I captained other people sometimes. And so to me, that doesn't feel like he was the biggest detriment to my rank. But the numbers don't lie.
It's just mad. It's just mad. The ownership on Salah this year was something I don't think we'll ever see something like that, given some of the performances from some of the players this year, and also Haaland coming in next year might have something to say about that. So
it'll be a bit of a whole new game next year for sure. But I guess I'd also say on the gain side, I mean, I had DS and I had him for a while, but he didn't really do a ton of stuff for me to make me think that he's number 2 on my gain list. But he was lower owned, and Man City defense was still doing well, and he got a couple of attacking returns throughout the season. So and one of my kind of stalwarts on my game week 8 wild card. So I guess it makes sense, but it also feels like so much earlier in the season that it doesn't feel like it's fresh in my mind. So
it's weird because I've got Mendy, like Edouard Mendy. I've got him in my team of the year as my keeper, because I had him from sort of game week 7 or 6 or 7 until wildcard in 21, I think it was, or something like that. And so I had him for so long. I had triple Chelsea defence for quite a while. And so Mendy was my Mendy was my number one keeper, and it feels really, really strange seeing him in that list for me as well. So yeah, I can understand that for
it's
sure.
a good reminder that the season's really long, and sometimes we're just thinking about the last couple weeks and the last, period of time. But we were playing this thing in August of last year.
Yeah. So just for context, for those that are listening on audio, so the 5 players that that Jamie saw a bigger net gain from versus the players around him was Son. He gained 91 points basically. Ruben Dias 65.6 points. Reece James 63.6. KDB 54.2, and Bruno 51.4. I'll give Kane an honourable mention because we're all Tottenham. So 45.3 for Kane, and his 5 against him was Salah. So this is brilliant. So you lost 31 points when you didn't own Salah, but you also lost 45 points when you did own him. So 77.5 points net impact against you there. Saka minus 48. Deki Kulusevski 32.8, Ronaldo 30.6, and then Rudiger at 26.94. So yeah, obviously a few big names in there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you regret not owning any of those players, or not owning them? But do you regret? It's difficult to regret anything when you win it.
Adam, I don't have any regrets right now about anything of that
I don't even know what I'm saying. Jesus. Okay, right. Let's move away from this before I get myself in all sorts of trouble. So I think the last thing, what other questions did I have for you? So we were going to have a look at your captains for sure, just because captains were obviously really interesting. It was a season where, we spoke about it on the pod earlier on in the season, and it was a case of being really, really bored about captaining Salah all the time. And you absolutely didn't captain Salah all the time.
No, I also share the same sentiment, and with the game with everybody captain Salah, it's kind of boring. I like to see everybody. I like the weeks when he was away at AFCON. That was really fun when everybody's like, well, who are we going to captain? And everybody's going some different directions. And that's, I think, part of the fun part of the game of seeing you play different things, seeing people take different strategies and them working out. And so there was a couple times I think I took some risks and went away from Salah, and a lot of them, I didn't. Not all of them worked out great. Some of them did, some of them didn't. But it was still kind of a mix. And even when I went away from him, sometimes my captain returned, but maybe not as much as Salah, so I didn't lose a ton. But it was kind of, I kind of chose some targeted times to try to veer away from him when he either had a tougher fixture, but people were all in on Salah no matter the fixture, and somebody else had a really good fixture, or there was a good matchup that I wanted to see what I could gain from that risk.
Yeah, I think what's cool, especially if we go back to it every time, is the Tottenham thing, is that you've captained Kane and Son as many times as you captained Salah, and you captained Kane a few times in that barren period, didn't you? Between sort of game week 11 and game week 16, that must have been a bit of a pain.
I did, and that wasn't super fun. But I think I didn't realize this until I saw FPL Architect's thread, and Baker pointed it out that he's fully come on you Spurs. He's captained Spurs as much as he captained Salah, and then thinking back on it a little bit more, I'm like, I think though, in those weeks that I captained them, I genuinely thought that they were, legitimately some of the top couple captaincy options in the game. It wasn't like I was just picking them because they're Spurs and I wanted them to do well. It was picking them because I thought still that they had the best chance, and if I maybe took a risk, it could pay off when everybody's fully all in on Salah. So it just thought that was interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I was picking them more or the same amount. Still felt like I captained Salah a lot.
And you got. I mean, apart from the one Bruno blank, you did pick him up for a couple of good hauls. You got, you obviously got you got the Jared Bowen haul in there as well, which is amazing. You obviously captained KDB in 36, so that was unbelievable. And you got Richarlison for 38 points as well in game week 37, which is just It's just mad. He just didn't seem to miss too often on captains. And that's the one thing I didn't actually look up how many captain points you had. Do you know off the top of your head?
I looked at it. I think it was like 780. It wasn't like I've seen more, but I did get some of the big divisive, some of those 50-50 calls. I landed on the right side of it. And so Bowen, De Bruyne, Son a couple times. I even captained KDB. I think it was 35, and he didn't play. And my vice captain was Son, so I gained an extra 19 points thanks to that. That was a bit of luck.
I didn't even know that. I'm looking at that now. Hold on a second. Oh, you did as well. You captained KDB and you had Son vice captain.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That was
4 weeks
it was like
to go.
That game, it was like, please, KDB, don't play.
Oh my word, that must have been. So when did City play on that? Okay, so City were playing Leeds, and Tottenham were playing the next day against Leicester.
Yeah, but even then, I at that point I didn't want KDB's got 20 minutes. He could come on for a point or something. The Son, I think, was the biggest captaincy. One of the biggest captaincy options that week. I went away from it to captain KDB, thinking, if he plays, that could be a big score. But
and obviously you obviously sat there and went, well, he hasn't played 35, so I'm going to captain him again in 36 and see exactly what happens. So
exactly. Well, round 2, let's see if this works out, KDB.
Yeah,
so he helped me twice without even helping me the first time.
You giving him a second chance, man. Oh. I had no idea about that, so thank you for sharing that. Huge slice of luck, really, obviously, but take it when you get it, because sometimes you do things like Captain Salah and he misses a penalty. So, and I've done that. So what have you kind of learned this season, taking a more sort of taking the approaches that you have? What have you learned? What's the kind of advice, I guess, that you would share for even yourself or for somebody else next season?
Yeah, I think I hit on it a little bit, but planning my chips, I think, was the biggest thing that I did, that I think was, and being adaptable around it. Like from day one, planning around when you want a wild card, looking at the fixtures and seeing, where are their swings and where you want to do this, and planning your team to dead end into that spot was something that I learned this year, of like, oh, I can do this. Yeah, that's a good strategy. We can make decisions to punt on certain people, and knowing that they're not going to be in our team for the long run, because we're gonna deploy a chip. And then on the back end of the season, I kind of talked about it a little bit, but with my plan to use a free hit in 27. Well, then I got closer and I thought I could kind of pivot around this, use a free hit in 30, or maybe I can manage that and weather that storm and deploy it later. And so having a plan, but then having a flexible plan so that I could kind of pivot away depending on how my team was setting up and how injuries were plaguing me versus everybody else around me. So I think that was one thing that I thought I did well this year, that I am going to try to continue to do well, and that I didn't do the last year when I played. Cool. Yeah, and the other part is just, as we've kind of alluded to, I've taken some risks on some higher ceiling players. I think I was looking at, over the course of the season, I might have had every Man City mid except Silva at one point in time. I had Torres at the beginning of the season, and then I transferred him out right before he hit a hat trick.
Yeah,
but I had a lot of Man City mids throughout the year, not for like long periods of time, but just for kind of shorter chunks. And I think that kind of alludes to my point of, I took high risks. I took risks on high ceiling players that could have had a lot of potential to swing. Reece James, Chilwell, captaining KDB, those kinds of things I think have helped me gain a lot on, rather than going with maybe the safe minutes pick of Rudiger, although that could work out too. That was one thing that I did well, that I hit on. You don't hit them all, but I hit a lot more this year than I probably ever will.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you hit a lot, and you obviously played your chips well, and you did well on captaincy. So they feel like the three things that have kind of all sort of fallen in line, and they've resulted in the pinnacle essentially of FPL. So I mean, that's all the questions really I had about how you went about your season, how things went, etc. What games are you looking to go to as part of your prize? Of course, Tottenham.
Of course, gotta. I don't really know how it all works, but I'd love to go to some Spurs games, and potentially, with Pip and Arsenal to fourth place, we've got Champions League coming our way. So, if I can figure out a way to work it into a time when I can be there also for a Champions League game, that'd be pretty awesome. We'll see what I can do.
I'm sure the Premier League can be a little bit accommodating, but the games are your choice, I think. So, and you get a couple of them. So hopefully you can sort of bookend your trip with a Champions League game in the middle. Just when those fixtures are coming out, you might find that you might have to disappear off to Belgium to go and watch Tottenham or something like that. But I mean, you get 3/4 of the way here, you might as well go full hog.
Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff. Well, Jamie, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. And, once again, from myself, from Baker, and from the whole community, congratulations on winning FPL this year.
Thank you. Love the pod. You guys do a great job. And again, to everybody in the community, good stuff. Keep it up. I've enjoyed being on the sidelines, watching content and not really interacting as much on Twitter and around, but even there are people like me that don't interact, but also view your content and appreciate it. So thanks to you as well.
Excellent, mate. Excellent. So once again, guys, if you did enjoy the podcast, make sure you give it a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. When Baker gets back from his holiday, we'll come back and we'll do our little season review. We'll try and keep it short because we know there's lots of season reviews going on at the moment, and we'll be a bit later than normal. But really appreciate you coming along today. Thanks again to Jamie for his advice, for his story, and the only way's down, mate, to be honest.
We do it again next year?
Oh, we can do it again next year. Sounds
We can
great.
do it again.
Sounds good.
We'll just go for that gray season to season.
Back to back.
Yeah.
Love it, man. Cool, man. Have a good one. Take it easy.
Great chatting, Adam.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.